Hi, I'm Jack from MDXworks, and today we're going to be talking about job interviews. Preparation is ultimately the key to a successful interview. You really need to ensure that you do that preparation piece, because you'll go into an interview and feel ready to answer the question, and you'll be able to give your best possible performance. Write down your motivation for applying for the role, underlined loads of key points and made notes against the job description. You might provide examples next to all the skills in the job descriptions. I would always say it's useful to prepare some responses to some common interview questions that may come up. You know, the classic tell me about yourself, questions around your strengths, your weaknesses, your motivation for applying for the job, what do you know about the company? All of those questions are likely to come up in an interview. The more detailed notes you have, the more you practice, the more you prepare, the better chances of you securing the job. Some organisations may use what we call strength-based questions, where they're assessing your suitability for the role based on your strengths, your interests, and what motivates you. Other organisations may prefer to use what we know as competency-based questions, which are probably the most common. Competency-based questions are essentially where the organisation are assessing your skills and asking you to provide examples of where you've previously demonstrated them, so that they can potentially explore how you might be able to practically apply those skills into the role that you are applying for. And they may comprise of questions like, can you tell me a time where you've demonstrated excellent problem-solving skills? You're being asked about a particular skill that is likely very important for the role. So you'd be wise to spend some time preparing some examples for each of the skills that the company are looking for from candidates. And there's a really amazing way of doing that, and it's called the STAR technique. The STAR technique stands for situation, task, action, and result. So you describe the situation or the context of a particular time where you demonstrated a certain skill. The task is a little bit more detail around a particular activity that you had to undertake within said context. The action is probably the most important part of this answer, because you're allowed to go into detail here around how you demonstrated the skill. You finally just round things off in the most positive manner possible, which is the result, which is, as a result of the action that I took, there was a really positive outcome. Sometimes I add a little extra T on the end of STAR, and you know, it becomes START, and that T at the end is almost like transferable. I'm going to tell you how that particular example relates to the job that I've applied for here, so it's almost like transferable back to the role. Never leave an interview without asking some questions about the role itself or the company. It's such an easy thing to do, and will earn you extra points, and will definitely lose you points if you ask no questions. Show some genuine enthusiasm about the opportunity. The job description is a really great place to form a question. You might want to ask something about the organisation based on a piece of research and reading that you did prior to. What I would always recommend is research your interviewer. Pop that person's name into Google, hop onto something like LinkedIn if they're on there, do a little bit of research about them, their background, get to know them, you know, familiarise yourself with what they do at the organisation, where they've worked before even. Then you could potentially even form a question around that individual. Those questions that you ask will leave an impression. I think the main difference with video interviews is just it's probably even more unnatural. You don't necessarily always actually have a human being sitting opposite you. You might just be talking to a camera and being recorded, so you don't necessarily have the knowledge of feedback and response and visual cues that you would potentially get from an interviewer, you know, who's maybe nodding or smiling at you. You just are looking at yourself in a screen. So practicing that is really important, because it doesn't come natural to any of us. The benefits of video interviews are that you can potentially have some notes and things dotted around in spaces that you can potentially draw upon during the interview. You obviously don't want to give away that you've got notes everywhere, but you might be able to have a couple of, like, as I say, subtle notes in the background that support you with those video interviews. At MDXworks, we can support you with preparation for interview. We've got some fantastic guides and resources that you can read through. We've got an online video interview platform called Shortlist Me, where you can have a practice at doing online video interviews and get some live feedback from the AI and also from a faculty advisor. You can also book a mock interview with the team at MDXworks. One of our advisors will prepare questions that are likely to come up in that interview. We can't guess all of them, but we can certainly give you a good idea of the types of questions that may arise during the real thing. LinkedIn have just released an AI practice interview tool whereby you can get real-time AI feedback in response to common interview questions. But there's really great websites like Glassdoor where you can actually sometimes access previous interviews from candidates who have been through a process. They may release 2, 3, 4, 5 of the questions that they were asked. You'll be able to get some feedback and learn from your mistakes in a safe space. So why not take advantage of that opportunity? You don't then have to go into an interview completely blind. Prospect is a really brilliant website around interview preparation. It's got a number of different sections. So all of those resources are available, they're out there. It's just a case of proactively utilising what's available to you. A few general tips that are important to keep in mind around interviews are to very carefully listen to the question. Don't necessarily rush an answer in response. Listen carefully, take on board what you're being asked. Make sure that you answer the question in full as well. Try and offer more than just a couple of words or a sentence. I think interviewers are certainly looking to get to know you. They want to get to know your personality. Always have multiple examples that showcase your strengths, your talents, your skills, your competencies, and with those examples, make sure that they're as recent and relevant as possible. Body language is really important at an interview. If you're smiling and you're building rapport and you're using positive hand gestures and things like that, naturally you will build a relationship with your interviewer. You can't overdress really for an interview. I think it's just important to go as smart and professional as possible. Err on the side of caution, dress smartly, dress professionally, and the likelihood is you'll be fine. Be confident that you are someone who the company see potential in. Draw upon your application and build upon that. You wouldn't have been shortlisted for an interview if the company didn't like you.